your back pocket. I'm the big Tesla.
Hi, I'm Josie.
And I'm Vanessa. And welcome to another episode of Up to Your Ears. Who's our guest today, Josie?
Today we have the one and only Steve Mack from a band called STAG. And a lot of our listeners or viewers may have heard of him. He used to be in a band called That Petrol Emotion.
Ooh, I love them. They had a couple of really big hits in the US and a lot in the UK, I understand. Yes?
Absolutely. Yeah, and he's a new project now called STAG. And I say new, but they've been around, I want to say, since like 2010. So that's not very new, I guess. I could be wrong. I've been lucky enough to see them live. So energetic, so fun. If you get a chance, I know that we're not going to shows as of right now, but if you ever get a chance to see them, check them out on YouTube. Super fun, energetic. They just kind of make you want to dance.
Everything I've listened to by That Petrol Motion has totally made me dance. In fact, there is a fabulous B-side to their Swamp 7-inch called Dance Your Ass Off that literally will make you dance your ass off.
That's so awesome. Not just a front person, he's also produced bands like Stereolab. He's played bass on a Yoko Ono release. He's one of those multi-instrumentalist, crazy talented people that we all love.
Musician and beard model.
Exactly. Oh, yes. Well, we really appreciate you taking time out to chat with us, Steve.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. We'd love it.
And we have a questionnaire that we would love for you to answer, participate in. It's super fun. And then afterwards, we want to know what's happening with you and STAG, and maybe you can fill us in on new recordings, what you guys have planned in the future, and all that up-to-date kind of stuff. But for now, I'm going to hand it over to Vanessa so she can start this super fun questionnaire.
So the first question is, what was your favorite cartoon growing up?
Oh, wow. So I'm as old as dirt, right? And so I grew up in the...
Not true.
Just 1 year younger than me. No,
I doubt that. I grew up in the heyday of cartoons, right? I grew up when we had all the Looney Tunes cartoons. I grew up when we had Woody Woodpecker. I grew up with, and then we had the crappy Hanna-Barbera cartoons. And so God, Woody Woodpecker, Wally Gator, Ant-Man. There's so many, but I would have to say that, the Roadrunner was definitely my favorite. I can remember Saturday mornings waiting for the Roadrunner cartoons and sitting with my dad and just watching as it, poof would come up.
The Acme, right?
Yes, Acme. So good.
I know that you lived in England for a while because I did my homework.
Indeed.
Is there something other than healthcare? Is there something from England that you wish you had in Seattle that you don't?
Yes. Although I adore Seattle, and I came back after all these years away, and I adore my Seattle musician community, and I adore, I'm now looking out my windows and I can see Puget Sound and mountains and whatnot. So I love home. However, I miss pub culture, something fierce, and it's not bar culture. Pubs and bars are different things, right? Yeah. Over there, people live in very small locations and whatnot, and you don't go over to somebody's house for dinner, right? You meet at the pub. Everybody, it's like 5 o'clock, you go to the pub and you just talk, right? And so there's this constant social interaction and social lubrication that goes on. And of course they drink like fish over there. So I do miss that as well, although my liver probably doesn't. But I do miss that just general, you're always at the pub and you're always hanging out with people. And in the US, we tend to just sort of sit at home a little bit more, to our detriment, I would say.
What is the first thing you think of when you see the words, all you can eat?
Oh, pasta.
Ooh, okay.
Pasta. Or Indian food.
Ooh,
Even better, Indian food.
even
And that's
better.
another thing I miss about England, actually, is the Indian food. Oh my God, you know, it was just to die for.
Final question for me. If you could have a wild animal as a pet, what would it be and why?
This is gonna be good.
Maybe I would have some sort of exotic bird, because I do love birds, and I grew up with parakeets, and you know, my parakeet used to ride around on my shoulder, and we taught him how to curse and stuff like that. So I could imagine a world where I might have like a cockatiel or something like that. But in general, you know, animals are wild for a reason. Like, you know, I'm sure you guys have seen like the Tiger King and stuff like that. Like, that's not supposed to happen, right?
No.
We are not supposed to have huge carnivorous mammals in our living room, right? And then when people get mauled by them, I'm like, of course you did, you jackass. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
that's a big, big cat. It's not supposed to be there.
Yeah. Well, this is a fantasy imaginary world of where you're allowed to have, you know, whatever you want. You're allowed to have a Pegasus if that's your jam.
You know what would be cool? An elephant. Elephants are amazing animals, and they're so damned intelligent. I mean, imagine just like if you have a problem, it's like, I'm just going to go out and talk to the elephant, and they would listen, and they would reach their nose out, and they'd go, "It's okay. You're going to be fine. I'm your elephant guide." You know? So I'm going to go with elephant.
I like that. I've never like touched or like, you know, a lot of people have like pet an elephant, and I've not, but they're so amazingly just like, I would die to do that. Like be in India and hang out with some elephants. Oh, how cool would that be? Okay, my question's for you, Steve. All right, first question. What was your very first concert that you went to that you remember?
Oh, it was a seminal experience, and I'm discounting the first time I saw a band at my junior high school, because that was traumatizing. It was awful. But the first good gig I ever went to was when I believe I was 14. There was a show at the Memorial Center in Seattle, which is just right underneath the Space Center, Space Needle.
Oh, cool.
It was Heart, Foreigner,
what?
Stephen Bishop, and Tower of Power. It was amazing. It was, I mean, like, so, God, there's so many stories. The girls, Ann and Nancy's dad was my 8th grade English teacher.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, and I was a huge Heart fan before I got to Seattle. And then I got to Seattle, I'm like, oh my God, they are from here. And I remember in English class, our teacher said, today we're going to do some creative writing. And I want you to write about what you think of the girls' new album. And he just drops the needle on their second record. And we were all like, what? And we all just lost our minds. And so
best teacher ever award.
Yeah. And so then they headlined this summer show at the Memorial Center. And I went with my best friend, and we were so naive and green that we brought an air pot full of lemonade because we were going to be there, right? And as we were walking up to the stadium and we're seeing and we were just suburban kids, right? And we're seeing everybody in their like leather jackets and torn Levi's and stuff like that. We were like, oh, and we're like, just chucked the air pot into the bushes and went in there. And then people kept saying, you want some of this? And we were just like, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. But I also was a saxophone player, so watching Tower of Power was just like a religious experience. Foreigner were up there. It was their first album. They rocked. And then, of course, Heart got up there, and it was just so good. It was just, that was my first of, like, after that point, I'm like, I saved all my paper route money and just bought tickets to shows from that point on.
That is amazing. We've asked this question several times. I think that's probably one of the best first shows ever, like of all time. I couldn't imagine.
Was it a 4-hour concert? I mean, that's a lot of bands to pack in.
Yeah, it was an all afternoon thing. It started like at 2:00 and went all the way through to like 9:30 or 10 o'clock. And getting our parents to let us go to Seattle, the big city, with all the dangerous people, and then taking the Metro bus all the way home was quite an accomplishment.
Yeah. And your virgin ears. I mean, come on. That's crazy.
Oh my God, yeah.
Amazing. Next question for you, Steve. You've met several musicians in your career and lifetime. And I mean, Heart was like your first show ever. So I'm sure you've met pretty much everyone out there. But the question to you is, have you ever been starstruck by another musician?
Oh, of course. Plenty of times. And it's just, it's you're always starstruck by the people who you sort of grew up with and you bought their records. And it, like when I would meet like Radiohead, like we knew those guys. I adore Radiohead. I'm a serious Radiohead fan, but whatever, it's just Radiohead, right? I got to meet Iggy Pop. And you're just sort of like, nicest guy in the world. Nicest guy in the world.
Yeah, what do you say to Iggy Pop?
I got to meet Mick Jagger. There, I was like,
on Josie's list.
Again, nicest guy in the world. Super nicest guy. And considering the way the music industry attracts assholes, like shit attracts flies, they don't have to be that. But it just showed me that like the guys who are really, really good, they don't have to be assholes. Like they were great.
But it's so cool when you do get to meet someone that you're almost nervous, like, please don't be a jerk. Please don't be a jerk. And then you meet them and they're so nice. Like, that's so cool to hear that Mick Jagger's a nice dude, And wow. And Iggy Pop even, I would think he'd be really aloof and kind of.
No, he was super down to earth. Now, mind you, it was at a record company and we shared a label for a while. So it was at a schmooze fest, but he was super cool. Like he came up to us and he's like, hey man, how you guys doing, man? Isn't this a bunch of shit? Whatever. And you're just like, oh my God, it's Iggy Pop and he's talking to us. This is so cool.
He's just having a chat.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh gosh. Okay. Moving along. What is the strangest venue, weirdest or strangest venue that you've ever played? And I know you've played a lot of shows, but I'm sure there's one that stands out to you like, this is bizarro.
God, I mean, we've played so many amazing places. Probably the strangest one is, for some reason, and you'll love this, Josie.
Okay.
Petrol Emotion were huge in Holland. Like we were huge. We would do Dutch tours, right? And so we went up and played Snake, which is it's spelled SNEEK, but it's pronounced Snake because the Frieslanders up there.
I'm the big Tesla, strut the hall like a disco ball.
And so we go up and we're in Snake and we're literally in the local high school gymnasium and going, well, okay, like who's going to show up? And of course, the entire town shows up. It's a town of like, I don't know, 3,000 people or whatever. And there's probably 400 or 500 of them there, aged like 3 to 100.
Oh my God.
They're just all up there dancing to our crazy angular rock music. And I'm just like, whatever, like this is great. Like I always really enjoyed places like that where you walk in and you think this is just going to be a disaster, and they've never heard your music, and you get up there and you do what you do and you can get them moving. It's like, okay, it's, because you expect if you play New York and London and all those other places where they've got your records and you're on the covers of the magazines or whatever, there's an excuse for them to be there. But when you go to these out of the way places and people actually get up and dance, that to me is actually one of the most gratifying moments where you realize, no, we're good. We are really good.
That's so awesome. I love that. And I love that it was in Holland, of course. The
Yes, of
weird.
course.
Okay, moving along. You're a pretty stylish guy, and you have this like persona on stage. Yeah, with the beard especially. What is one piece of clothing you cannot live without?
Oh God, it's. Have you seen the photographs of that Petrol emotion? Like I
Well,
was
it's
the
STAG now.
most unstylish. Like I cannot believe my manager didn't take me aside and said, "Stop, just whatever that is, stop doing it." Or even my girlfriend, like, why didn't she say stop it? Right?
As you, yes, you
Later
have.
in life, right? I think I finally grew into my own little personal style. And as you well know, like now my whole jam is 70s polyester suits.
There's not enough sunshine in the world.
They are just
No.
so awesome.
On your jacket.
You know what?
You
I
can
love
get
it.
them on eBay for $19. And you know what? They don't fit anybody from this generation. They only fit me. Because I'm still kidding. So I can buy these 70s suits.
They
that are
only
like
fit me.
39
You hear that,
long.
everyone? Steve Mack has the market cornered on the 70s leisure suit.
I
Yes.
do. And they're so good. I've got them in almost every color. I'm looking for purple. So like
I
if you
need
guys
to
see a
wear
purple
one
one, let me
today.
know.
Oh,
I also need orange, purple and orange. But
Okay.
yeah, so I would say my indispensable go-to at this point is the 70s leisure suit, because they're just like, you wear those, like, and I've worn them not only just to my gigs, but just like to like weddings and stuff.
I
It's
love
like the
that.
Steve Martin joke, right? Every head turns. People are like, oh my God. And everyone starts laughing and smiling. And I'm at the point now where I don't give a shit about what people think about me. But if you can just sort of like bring a smile to the room, that's,
Have fun with
you
it.
win. You get the prize.
Yeah. Okay. Next question for you, Steve, is what is the strangest thing a fan has ever like said or given to you as a gift?
We did attract for a while there when we had our brief dalliance with the pop world. We did attract a large number of Asian fans, Japanese women in particular.
Oh.
And I had this one fan, Atsuko Takahashi, and she sent me birthday gifts and Christmas gifts every year for about 10 years.
What? Oh my God.
Yes. And she would hand knit me sweaters. That she
Oh my
made.
God.
And she
and I
made,
bet they were impeccable.
they were beautiful. They were just stunning. And in fact, like I can find plenty of photographs of me wearing sweaters that she knit for me. I mean, she basically kept me warm for 10 years.
Oh my
And
gosh.
get this, you're going to love this. So she had never seen the band live. She was just a fan from Japan. And she would just write me these heartfelt letters. And, you know, fanship is a very, very, you know, like this is the way it's done. You write the letter, you thank very much for your latest record. I am giving you this gift. And then I would
Wow.
send back a gift and she'd be like, no, you can't, because now I have to send you another gift. And, you know, so fast forward to 1994, where we finally decide we're going to break up. And I just realized, well, we can't break up. Atsuko hasn't seen us. So we know that we're doing 2 last gigs. So I wrote her a letter and I said, look, Atsuko, you've got to come see us. Like we're breaking up. And she writes back, she's like, but I like, where would I stay? How would this work? And I'm like, get here, just get here. I'll figure out how to make this happen. And it just so happened that Raymond, one of our guitarists, had married a Japanese woman, and I used her to sort of go between. So she flew out, booked a hotel. I mean, I offered. I said, you can stay at my house. And she's just like, no. That cannot happen.
Oh, where were you?
We were in London still,
You're in London. Okay.
right? And we decided to play 2 last gigs, one in London, one in Dublin. And so, and I'm like, I'll get you in. She's like, no, I'll buy tickets. I'm like, no, you will not buy tickets. Like, I will get you backstage passes. And so she flew out, booked her hotels, and we gave her backstage passes. And Raymond's wife, Tamaki, looked after her, and we put her on the side of stage. And she got to see our last two gigs. And then we brought her backstage, and we all hugged her, and she was just like, oh. I was finally able to give back all of the love that she had poured into me for the 10 years of her life. And it was a great story and a happy ending.
That's a wonderful story. I love that story. Mack, nicest musician alive.
Seriously. Oh my gosh. Okay, is what advice would you give your 15-year-old self?
Practice more and start writing songs, and just bank the songs. Just keep practicing and writing songs, because they're both muscles, right? Like just whether it's scales or even just playing chords, it's just keep doing it. And writing is a muscle as well. Now in my day job, I write documents, like I'm a doc writing machine, and I have to train the young pups how to do this. And I'm just telling you, just keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. It gets better and it gets easier. You develop the tools and the muscles to be able to do what it is you do. It's like it's a craft, right?
We want to give you an opportunity to talk about you, but it's like burning question inside me. So like I said, I'm one of those people who, if I find a band that I like, or I'm interested in a band, I start looking up each individual musician. And then I start like, okay, but they sang that song, but who really wrote it? Like, was it the vocalist who wrote it? Was it the guitarist that wrote it? And he just didn't want to sing it, but there's someone who's willing to go up in the front and sing it, or whatever. So in my wormhole that I went down with that Petrol emotion, I came across the song Dance Your Ass Off. Okay, so you have these political songs that you've written, and then here comes along Dance Your Ass Off. So I did say, well, who wrote this? And it was Hamilton
Bohannon.
Is that how you say his name?
Yep.
How did you come across this person? Because it didn't appear as though you collaborated with this person on anything else. And then that was actually a B-side to a 7-inch of Swamp. So then it was like, when I was looking it up, I was like, okay, it says it's on Babel, but it's not. But it is on the 2001 remaster. Like, how did this song come into your world?
Well, it's funny because the way the band originally came together is that after the Undertones broke up, John O'Neill went back to his hometown of Derry, and he bumped into his eventual guitarist partner, Raymond, and they were DJing at a local club. And they just loved all kinds of music, everything from punk rock to the Velvet Underground to dance music to Per Ubu. And so they were just playing stuff that they loved. And amongst that was dance music, right? And Hamilton Bohannon, I mean, he was a legend in the New York, Bohannon.
Okay. I knew that name.
Right. So that's where that comes from. And so they just knew Hamilton Bohannon just from spinning records in a club. And every band, when you're sitting in the rehearsal space, back to that, how do you get started? Somebody will just start, well, let's play an Iggy Pop song, let's play a Velvet Underground song. And someone is just like, at one point we covered the Commodore Slippery When Wet. How about that? We never actually recorded it, but I mean, like, we would just do crazy stuff like that because it was fun. And with Dance Your Ass Off, it just seemed like, well, actually, this is kind of working, right? And that was at a time when we were sort of leaning towards, we were buying all these early rap records and going, how do we get this energy into our stuff, right? And that was what we were trying to do with varying degrees of success. But that was just sort of like a little nugget of like, see, this is where the stuff comes from, right? We started here and somehow we ended up with Big Decision, but that's where it came from.
That's so cool.
That's an awesome story. I'm so glad I asked.
I just wanted to say, which brings me to what's going on with you now. I know you're playing in a band called STAG and have been for a while now, right?
This was our 10-year anniversary year, and it was also going to be the 5th anniversary of our annual blowout, the summer STAG party. And so we kind of got
It
kneecapped
was
this
super
year.
fun.
We were gonna, yes, exactly. We were gonna put out, maybe sort of a compilation of like what we think our best songs were, and give that out to everybody who came to the show. And obviously all this changed in March, because we were up here in Seattle, and so we were at the leading edge, and we were like, whoa, okay, so maybe this isn't going to happen. And we considered maybe doing a virtual one, and maybe we would donate the profits. We've done various things where, like this summer, we all went out together and went to a friend's place, and we were playing acoustically outdoors. But it's not, we're not, this is when we should have been writing our new record. And at some point we will get back together and sort of pick up where we left off. But it's been sort of, STAG has been generally on hold. And what has sort of taken its place in the short term is my old band, That Petrol Emotion, started having listening parties. There's a very sort of active That Petrol Emotion community online, and they've got a Facebook group, and they reached out and said, hey, do you guys want to do a listening party? Let's have our own. So we had a listening party for the first album, and that was just me literally like putting the record, the needle on my record player. We actually talked for an hour and a half and answered questions from people, and it's been so gratifying, really.
That's so awesome.
People have just asked insightful questions. We've told stories which have blown people's minds because, like people like this and that song, and we go, yeah, actually, we don't really like that song. And they're like, what? How do you not love that song? And, we've told them how certain songs were written and like what it was like recording those. And so we're sort of cracking open that world again and telling stories. And it's been gratifying to reconnect with the fans and sort of relive those things. And even just like us talking together as a band and going, wow, really? You didn't like that either? Like, why didn't we all just say we didn't like that? So it's been fun. We're going to keep doing those. And in fact, I think we're going to do a listening party. We're going to go back to the first album again because the other three guys didn't participate in the first one, so they want to revisit it. So keep your eyes peeled when we tell you when the next listening party is, and we can all join in. Fun.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
I have to ask if you liked Dance Your Ass Off.
Oh yeah,
it didn't make it onto Babel the first time. No,
I'll tell you one of my favorite parts about Dance Your Ass Off, and this is obscure, but in the middle of it, there's this sample. And I got that sample off side 2 of Noise' first record, which is an obscure krautrock band who I really love. And we managed to get that.
I love Noise too.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a Noise sample on Dance Your Ass Off, which makes it even better.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
my pleasure. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
How fun was that? He's a lovely person.
Yes, so sweet. What a sweetie, right?
Yes.
Well, if you have liked this video, please don't forget to subscribe. I'm Josie.
And I'm Vanessa. This has been Up to Your Ears.
Sounds good.